Have you ever spoken up only to feel like no one heard you? Like your words just vanished into thin air, leaving no impact, no response, no respect, nothing. It's frustrating, isn't it? You try to express yourself, but somehow it's like you're invisible. So naturally, many of us start to believe that maybe we need to speak louder, say more, explain ourselves better. Maybe then we'll be respected. But here's the truth. Respect doesn't come from volume. It comes from presence. You don't earn respect by raising your voice. You earn it by raising your standards. Now, I want to take you back to the wisdom of the Stoics. These were people who lived thousands of years ago, yet they understood something we still struggle with today. Real influence doesn't come from force. It comes from wisdom, restraint, and inner clarity. They didn't waste time trying to prove their worth to everyone. They knew that when your words are rooted in confidence, intention, and self-respect, you don't have to shout to be heard. People will feel it. They'll lean in. Because when you speak with quiet conviction, the world listens. Let me ask you something personal. Think about the last time someone really captured your attention. Was it because they were around, or was it something else? Maybe their calm, deliberate tone, their choice of words, their presence. Now compare that to someone who talks a lot but says very little. Big difference, right? In today's world, especially in this age of social media, rapid-fire content, and everyone screaming for attention, we've forgotten the power of calm authority, but it still works. In fact, in a noisy world, silence, restraint, and well-chosen words stand out more than ever. So if you've ever felt ignored, if you've ever left a conversation thinking, why didn't they take me seriously? Or if you've ever watched someone else command a room with just a sentence or two, this video is for you. Because here's what we're going to do. Over the next few minutes, we're diving into 6 timeless Stoic principles, strategies that can completely transform the way you communicate. These aren't just tips for sounding smarter. They're tools for building something much deeper. Presence, respect, and impact. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about stripping away the habits that dilute your power, like over-explaining, apologizing when you don't need to, or shrinking your voice to make others comfortable. We're going to flip that. We're going to step into a new kind of communication, one rooted in stillness, strength, and authenticity. The kind of communication that doesn't just make people hear you, it makes them remember you. So whether you're leading a team, having a tough conversation with someone you love, or simply trying to be taken more seriously in everyday life, these 6 principles will help you stop being overlooked and start being felt. And trust me, this isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming more of who you truly are, more grounded, more intentional, more respected. So if you're ready to stop yelling for attention and start commanding it, stay with me. Let's begin. Let me ask you something. How many times did you say, "I'm sorry" today? Not because you hurt someone, not because I made a mistake, but for things that did not require an apology at all. You were 2 minutes late to a meeting. "Sorry, I'm late." Someone bumped into you in the hallway. "Oh, sorry." You sent a message to check in. "Sorry to bother you." Sound familiar? It's wild when you really think about it. How often we apologize just for existing, for taking up space, for needing something, or for simply speaking. Now, don't get me wrong, an honest apology when warranted is powerful. It shows humility. It shows accountability. But that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about, boy, is a habit, a subtle, automatic, confidence-eroding habit that tells the world, I'm not sure I deserve to be here. The Stoics taught that your words shape your reality. And if you keep saying, I'm sorry for things that don't require remorse, you're not just weakening your message, you're weakening yourself. Think about it. Every unnecessary apology chips away at your authority. It quietly tells others, I'm unsure, I'm small, I need permission to speak. Let me give you a simple example. You walk into a meeting a few minutes late, the first thing out of your mouth, sorry I'm late. What you've just done without realizing it is position yourself as the problem, as if your mere arrival needed justification. But what if instead you said, thanks for your patience? Same situation, totally different energy. One signals guilt, the other signals control. Or how about this? Someone accidentally bumps into you in a crowded space and you instinctively say, sorry. Why? Why are you apologizing for someone else's clumsiness or for simply being in a shared space? These tiny moments build up. They shape how people see you and how you see yourself. Even in texts and emails, phrases like, sorry to bother you. Sorry, just checking in. Sorry, can I ask a quick question? All of it quietly communicates one thing. I don't believe what I'm saying is worth your time. But what if you change the script? Try this. Instead of sorry to bother you, say, do you have a moment? Instead of sorry, can I add something? Try, I'd like to offer a perspective. These small shifts don't just sound different. They feel different and they create a presence, a quiet confidence that people notice. Now here's the kicker. When you apologize too much, people begin to expect it. They start assuming you'll take the blame. You'll absorb the extra work. You'll yield your time and space without question. That's how boundaries disappear. That's how respect gets lost. Slowly, silently, through well-meaning words. So let me challenge you, just for one day, go a full 24 hours without saying I'm sorry. Unless it's truly necessary. Catch yourself, notice the urge, then reframe it. Ask yourself, did I actually do something wrong? Or am I apologizing out of habit, out of fear, out of the need to be accepted? Because here's the truth. The world doesn't need you to apologize for existing. It needs you to own your space with calm, grounded strength. And when you do, when you stop shrinking, stop seeking permission, stop apologizing for what doesn't need to be apologized for, people will notice. They'll listen more. They'll respect you more. And most importantly, you will start respecting yourself more. So let's start there. Drop the guilt, drop the over-apologies, and speak like someone who knows their voice matters, because it does. Here's a hard truth, one that most of us don't like to admit. If you don't respect your own time, energy, and limits, no one else will. And it's not because people are bad or selfish. It's because people take cues from you on how to treat you. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said it best. No man is free who is not master of himself. And part of mastering yourself is knowing where your lines are and not being afraid to draw them. So let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you said yes to something that deep down you didn't want to do? Maybe you agreed to stay late at work, again, because you didn't want to seem unhelpful. Maybe you accepted an invite you had no interest in because you didn't want to disappoint someone. Or maybe you kept listening to someone vent, even though you were drained, because saying I need space felt too selfish. I've been there too. And let me tell you, the resentment that builds up, it's not directed at them. It's directed at yourself. You're not angry that someone asked. You're frustrated that you didn't protect your own boundaries. And here's the truth most people miss. Saying yes when you really want to say no isn't kindness. It's self-betrayal. Think about this. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you are by default saying no to something that matters. Your time, your rest, your peace of mind, your priorities. And slowly, without noticing, your days become filled with obligations you didn't choose. Your energy gets spent on things that don't align with your values. And your life starts to feel like it belongs to everyone but you. But it doesn't have to be this way. Setting boundaries isn't rude. It's responsible. It's not about shutting people out. It's about making room for what truly matters. So here's how we change it. Start small. The next time someone invites you to something you don't want to do, resist the urge to over-explain. You don't need to justify your no. Instead of saying, I'd love to, but I've got so much on my plate, try thanks for the invite, but I'm staying in tonight. Simple, clear, respectful. And if that feels uncomfortable, good. That's how growth works. Like any muscle, boundaries get stronger the more you use them. The first few times you draw the line, it might feel awkward, maybe even scary. But each time, you're teaching people how to treat you. And more importantly, you're reminding yourself that your needs are valid. Remember, those who truly respect you will respect your boundaries, and those who don't probably never respected you to begin with. Let me share something personal. A few years ago, a friend asked me to help them move. My weekend was already packed, but I didn't want to let them down. So I said yes. I showed up tired, distracted, and honestly, resentful. But I wasn't mad at them. I was mad at me because I had the power to say no and I didn't use it. That moment taught me something I still live by. If it's not a true yes, then it's a no. The Stoic Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul become dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you keep telling yourself your time doesn't matter, people will believe it. But if you start holding firm, something powerful happens. People begin to see you differently, more grounded, more self-assured, more respected. So today I challenge you to check in with yourself. Are there boundaries you've been afraid to set? Is there a part of your life where you've said yes too much and no too little? Start reclaiming your space, one decision at a time, because freedom, real freedom, starts with self-respect, and self-respect begins with knowing your limits and holding them. Let me ask you something. Why are we so afraid of silence? Why the moment there's a gap in conversation, do we rush to fill it with words, any words, just to avoid that uncomfortable quiet? Most people think that talking more makes them sound smarter, more confident, more in control. But in reality, it often does the opposite. The more we ramble, the more we dilute our message. The faster we talk, the less our words land. You see, in a world addicted to noise, silence becomes power. And one of the most overlooked skills in powerful communication is knowing when to pause. I used to think speed was everything. Answer quickly, speak fast, never leave a second of dead air. But all that did was make my words blur together. Nothing stood out. Nothing stuck. Then one day, after yet another rushed, chaotic presentation, my manager pulled me aside and said something I'll never forget. "You've got great ideas, but you don't give people time to absorb them." That hit me because I realized I wasn't just talking fast. I was afraid. afraid of silence, afraid that if I paused, people would lose interest, afraid that if I wasn't constantly filling space, I'd seem unsure. Wow. But here's the truth. A pause isn't weakness, it's control. When you pause after a key point, you let your words breathe. You give the listener space to absorb, reflect, and respond. And suddenly people lean in. They're not just hearing you, they're feeling you. Some of the greatest communicators in history knew this. Winston Churchill, Barack Obama, Martin Luther King Jr. They all mastered the art of strategic silence. They didn't speak fast. They spoke with purpose. They made a point, then let it land. Because silence, when used well, creates tension. It builds anticipation. It demands attention. And it signals something powerful. I trust my words enough to let them speak for themselves. Now let me be clear. This isn't just about public speaking. This applies to your everyday life too. Think about an argument. When someone raises their voice, the natural response is to fire back immediately. Defend, attack, react. But what happens if you pause? You don't react emotionally, you breathe, you think. That pause shifts the entire dynamic. Suddenly you are in control, not your anger, not your ego, you. Or picture this. You're asked a question in a meeting. Everyone turns to you. Your heart starts racing. Most people rush to fill the silence. But what if you paused? What if you took a beat, gathered your thoughts, and then answered with clarity? That moment of stillness, that's the moment you claim the room. You don't need to be the loudest. You need to be the most intentional. So here's a simple exercise. Next time you speak, whether in a casual conversation or a formal setting, pause after your key point, even for just 1 or 2 seconds. Let your words hang in the air. At first, it might feel awkward. You might feel the urge to jump in and keep talking, but give it time. You'll notice something powerful. People will start listening more closely. Your words will carry more weight, and you'll feel more confident, not because you said more, but because you said what mattered and let it land. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Think before you speak, but when the time comes to act, do not hesitate." And I'd add, when the time comes to speak, don't be afraid to pause, because silence isn't empty, it's presence, it's authority, it's the space where your words turn into impact. So next time you speak, own your silence. And let the pause speak louder than the noise. Let's talk about something that's often misunderstood. Humor. Used the right way, it's powerful. It can break tension, build connection, and even make you more relatable. But when it's misused, it can completely undermine your presence. You've seen it happen, right? The person who always has a joke ready. At first, it's charming, people laugh. But over time, something shifts. They're no longer the one people turn to for leadership or serious input. They're just the comic relief. And here's the thing, respect and entertainment don't always go hand in hand. The Stoics weren't against laughter. In fact, Seneca once wrote, "Laughter should not be abundant, nor should it be absent." They believed, like most things in life, that the key lies in balance. So let me ask you, how are you using humor in your life? Because there's a difference between someone who uses humor to build bridges and someone who uses it to hide. I'll be honest, earlier in my career, I fell into that second category. I used jokes to cover up nerves. I'd throw in self-deprecating one-liners like, "I'm just here to make spreadsheets look pretty," hoping it would make me more likable. And it did at first. But over time, I noticed something. People laughed, but they didn't take me seriously. They liked me, but they didn't respect me. One day, my manager said, "You're better than the joke you just made." That hit me because she was right. I had turned myself into a punchline. And it made me realize the way you talk about yourself trains others how to see you. When you constantly make yourself the butt of the joke, even if it seems harmless, you slowly chip away at your own credibility. Now, does that mean we should never laugh? Of course not. But humor needs purpose. Ask yourself, is this joke lightening the mood or just distracting from it? Is it helping build connection or covering up insecurity? Is it serving the message or replacing it? Good humor adds value. It punctuates a point. It helps people relax, remember, relate. Bad humor derails value. It shifts attention away from your message and onto your need for approval. And let's be honest, some forms of humor just don't translate well in every space. Sarcasm can sound arrogant. Dark humor might be offensive in a professional setting. Jokes that rely on stereotypes, they don't build trust, they destroy it. So here's a better way to think about humor. Use it like seasoning, not the main course. Sprinkle it in when it adds flavor, but don't let it overpower the dish. Let it reflect your personality, not replace your presence. And above all, don't hide behind it. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is be direct, be real, be sincere. It's okay to say, "I'm nervous about this." It's okay to say, "This means a lot to me." You don't have to turn vulnerability into a punchline. The more intentional you are with your humor, the more people will see you not just as someone who's fun, but as someone who's formidable. So the next time you're tempted to crack a joke, just pause and ask, will this make my message stronger or will it water it down? And if it strengthens the moment, go for it. But if it doesn't, stand tall in your silence. Let your words carry their own weight. Because being respected doesn't mean being serious all the time. It means knowing when to be serious and when to let the laughter in. Let me ask you something that might hit a little close to home. Have you ever caught yourself talking about someone who wasn't there to defend themselves? Maybe it started as a vent session. Maybe it felt like harmless curiosity. Or maybe it was disguised as concern. I just hope they're okay. We've all done it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If you talk about others behind their back, people will assume you do the same with them, and that, more than anything, kills respect. You could be the most charismatic, well-spoken person in the room, but the moment people sense that your words carry judgment instead of integrity, they stop trusting you. Even if they smile, even if they laugh at your story, because deep down they wonder, what do they say about me when I'm not around? Gossip is a silent killer, not just of trust, but of character. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, if walking away from gossip makes people think you're no fun, no problem. Your integrity is worth more than approval. And here's the truth. Gossip isn't just about being malicious. It can sneak in when we're bored, insecure, or craving connection. We think that sharing inside knowledge brings us closer, that being in the loop makes us feel important. But it doesn't. It makes us look small. It shows that we rely on the flaws of others to feel better about ourselves. Think about the people you truly respect, the ones who make you feel safe, grounded, inspired. Are they the ones whispering in the break room? Or are they the ones who speak with honesty, kindness, and purpose? I'll share something personal. Years ago, I was caught in a circle of harmless office gossip. It wasn't cruel, just casual comments about someone's habits, quirks, or relationships. Until one day, I overheard my name in that same kind of conversation. It hit me like a brick. If they talk about me and I talk about them, I'm no different. I was contributing to a culture that eats away at trust, and I had to stop. So I made a quiet decision. I would no longer engage in gossip. Period. And here's the wild part. People noticed. They started coming to me when they wanted clarity, not drama. When they needed solutions, not stories. Because I had proven I could be trusted, not just with information, but with people. So how do you make the shift? Start by recognizing gossip when it happens. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it wears a friendly disguise. I'm just worried about her, or don't tell anyone, but ask yourself, is this conversation helping someone or just exposing them? If it doesn't resolve a problem or build someone up, it's gossip. Simple as that. Next, redirect the conversation. You don't have to call anyone out aggressively. Just change the energy. Try saying, "Hey, I'd rather not talk about that. That's their business. I hope they're doing okay. Let's focus on something we can actually do something about." You'd be surprised how quickly the tone shifts when one person chooses integrity over indulgence. Marcus Aurelius said it best. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. In today's world, choosing not to gossip isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. It sets you apart. It builds quiet power. And it shows that your words are rooted in something stronger than judgment, respect. So the next time the room starts whispering, make a different choice. Be the one who rises above the noise. Because the most trustworthy people are the ones who don't need to tear others down to lift themselves up. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever made a great point only to ruin it by saying too much afterward? You were clear. You were convincing. But then, when you kept talking, you explained again, you added more, you circled back. And somewhere along the way, your message lost its impact. We've all done it. And it's not because we're bad communicators. It's because we're uncomfortable with silence. We're afraid that if we don't keep talking, we'll be misunderstood or even ignored. But here's the truth. The most powerful thing you can say is sometimes nothing at all. In fact, talking too much is one of the fastest ways to lose attention and respect. When we over-explain, we don't sound more knowledgeable. We sound unsure, insecure, unclear. Think about the people who truly command a room. They don't ramble. They speak with purpose. They make their point, and then they stop. And in that pause, their words settle, their message lands, their presence grows. I used to struggle with this a lot, especially in high-stakes situations, job interviews, sales meetings, difficult conversations. I felt like I had to fill every second with words to prove that I was smart, prepared, persuasive. But the result, people would lose focus. I could feel their attention drifting. And I realized something powerful. Every extra word past the point of impact weakens it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others unless it brings some benefit." I'd take it one step further. Don't waste your words unless they serve a clear purpose. So how do you apply this? Start by recognizing your own patterns. Do you tend to repeat yourself when you're nervous? Do you keep explaining even after you've made your point? Do you rush to fill silence out of discomfort? Once you're aware, you can retrain your response. Here's a simple, powerful rule. Make your point and then pause. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. Let your words breathe, especially in negotiations or conflicts. Say what needs to be said, then stop. For example, let's say you're asking for a raise. You present your case confidently and say, I believe based on my performance and responsibilities, this is a fair request. Now stop. Don't justify. Don't over-explain. Don't backpedal. Let them sit with it. You might be surprised by what happens when you resist the urge to overtalk. The silence creates pressure in a good way. It shows composure, confidence, control. And this doesn't just apply to formal conversations. Even in casual everyday moments, practicing brevity can transform how people see you. You become the person who doesn't need to dominate a conversation to make an impact. You become the person who's calm, measured, and intentional. And let's be honest, in a world full of noise, clarity is magnetic. So here's your challenge. This week, pay close attention to how much you speak and when. Catch yourself before you repeat something unnecessarily. Practice ending your sentence and letting it stand on its own. If someone asks you a question, pause, answer thoughtfully, and stop talking. It might feel weird at first, but trust me, when you say less, people listen more. Because real power doesn't come from saying everything. It comes from knowing exactly what needs to be said and having the confidence to stop right there. So the next time you're tempted to fill the silence, don't let your words do their job and let the pause carry their weight. Let's take a moment to bring everything we've explored together. Because at the heart of it all, there's one simple truth. Respect is not something you ask for. It's something you embody. It doesn't come from speaking louder. It doesn't come from demanding attention. It comes from the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, set boundaries, and show up with quiet confidence and clarity. Too often we chase respect like it's something out there, something we can convince people to give us if we just try hard enough. But the Stoics knew better. They taught us that true power isn't about domination. It's about self-mastery. When you respect yourself, your time, your words, your values, other people feel it. And without needing to beg or explain, you begin to command the room simply by being you. Let's recap the 6 Stoic principles that can transform the way you communicate and show up in the world. 1. Eliminate unnecessary apologies. Stop saying, I'm sorry, for things that don't require an apology. Speak with presence, not guilt. 2. Set boundaries and stick to them. Say no when you need to. Don't trade your peace to avoid discomfort. 3. Master the pause. Let silence be part of your message. Let your words breathe. People hear better when they're not overwhelmed. 4. Use humor with purpose. Laugh, absolutely, but don't make yourself the punchline. Be mindful. Humor should lift the room, not lower your credibility. 5. Walk away from gossip. Don't trade your integrity for cheap connection. Be the one others trust because you speak with intention. 6. Know when to stop talking. Make your point, then stop. Let the silence work in your favor. Less noise, more impact. These aren't just communication tips. They're life skills. They're daily practices that slowly but powerfully rebuild your confidence, your presence, and how the world responds to you. Because here's what no one tells you. When you speak with clarity, people stop to listen. When you walk with boundaries, people move around you. And when you honor your voice, others begin to honor it too. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to shrink to be accepted. And you don't need to constantly prove your worth when you live it every day through your discipline, your presence, and your integrity. So let me leave you with this. Don't chase validation. Don't beg for space. Become the kind of person who naturally commands it because you've done the inner work to deserve it. That's the Stoic way. That's how respect is earned. If this message resonated with you, if something in these 6 principles clicked or made you think differently, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Pass it on to someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because this is just the beginning. More powerful lessons are coming. Lessons rooted in ancient wisdom, but made for your everyday life. Until then, speak with confidence, move with purpose, and never shrink yourself for anyone. You've got this.